Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We are headed to Miami in Super Bowl 54, full coverage all week long. Luke Jones and I will be there, and it is because of our great sponsors that these great things happen. One of them happens to be my pal Leonard Raskin from Raskin Global, who is still licking the purple wounds. You know, Leonard, I was telling a friend of mine that on the Friday night after the loss before the championship weekend, I looked out the window downtown where I live, and there was not one glimmer of purple left. You know, like 4 or 5 days after the loss, people put the purple lights away. They want to make it go away. There's some pain involved in all of that. I still have my purple rope lights here in the office on the floor. I got to box them back up and put them away. You know, it comes as a thud, and then you have to sit on Sunday and watch it, and then I'm going to sit next week with Pat Mahomes on one wall, and, you know, we're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo on the other wall, and day after day, people are going to say, what happened to the Ravens, right?
Absolutely. Sad. It's very sad. I had planned to be there with you. We're not going to be there, so we got to wait a year for next year's game to go celebrate, hopefully, a Super Bowl with our Ravens.
You know what? I hope I don't hate the Chiefs fans by next week, right? I mean, it's been a long time coming. I have friends that are Chiefs fans. They've always been sort of engaged in it back in the Montana era and the Steve Bono era and the Steve DeBerg era, and finally they get to go. Like, for that, I didn't feel particularly good for the Eagles fans 2 years ago, but, you know, for the long-suffering teams that finally get a chance to go and play in a Super Bowl and have their fans descend upon Miami, I mean, I'm okay with it as long as it didn't come at our expense, but it did, right?
More at our expense had they beaten us. So
sure.
I'm glad that they're going and Tennessee gets to go home. So I heard friend Tannehill talk about the suddenness of the loss, and good. Okay, great.
We're familiar with that.
I remember going to Tennessee for playoff games back in the day, and I will say this. The Tennessee fans, after a loss, were more gracious than I would have been after a win. I gotta give them that. They were all about loving us and happy for us, and so that's great. But I was happy to see Tannehill feel the suddenness of the loss, and I'm glad they're not going, and I'm happy to see the Chiefs go. I've got a bunch of friends, clients from Kansas City. They have never been more happy than this week, and as you said, let's face it, most of the people that are fans, not all of them, but most of the people that are fans today, their team's never been there. It's been a long time coming, and you got to feel good for them and happy that they got a chance.
I think they're going to win, too. You know, like I'm supporting Andy Reid in this mission. Who knows? Terrell Suggs with another Super Bowl ring. Who would have thunk that, huh?
Yeah, I think he's going to jump up and pick a ball off. He's going to make one of his Suggs end plays. I don't know about a pick six, but I think you're going to see him have a good game in the Super Bowl. And hey, look, you got him on the one side, you got Kyle Juszczyk on the other side. So at least our past is represented.
Absolutely, as well as Steve Spagnuolo and some others on the Andy Reid staff. Leonard Raskin here from Raskin Global, empowering people to choose their financial future. You're doing an event coming up next month for all the stuff that you do. You manage people's money and help them grow their money and on a fee-based, which is a lot different than a lot of other people in the way they do things in the modern era. But you're having a welcoming event next month, kind of a cooling off after the Super Bowl. I hope you have warm toddy available at your event.
Absolutely. Monday night, February 10th, 6 o'clock at our place in Hunt Valley. We're having a Welcome to Raskin Global event, a chance for people to come out, get to know the firm, see what we're about, understand what we talk about, understand our philosophy. You know, bottom line is lots of people out there manage money, lots of people out there sell insurance. There aren't many people out there that address clients' desires for their financial future and talk about this thing we call the American dream, which is we think a lot of people have lost hope with, but we haven't, our clients haven't. And what we do is we help people discover what that is, find out how to implement financial assets and resources so that they can achieve it, do the things they want to do for their families, their charities, their community. So this is a welcome event, chance to see who we are, get to meet us, low pressure, no pressure. If you love us, we'd love to have you work with us. If you don't, great, come out, have some food, have some grub, have some drink, and head home with some ideas.
Well, I'm going to put that on my calendar, too. That's the 10th of February. It's 6 p.m., correct?
Yep. Our place in Hunt Valley. It's out on our Facebook page. See it at Raskin Global on Facebook. Our website, raskinglobal.com. All the information, where to RSVP. We'd love to have people come out and check us out.
Well, and I went onto the website here. You have a complete resource center there. You can kind of go into a black hole on your website a little bit, right? Like you could do a lot of reading before anybody were to choose or come out. And, I would think for anybody at this point in life, managing money and trusting someone to manage their money, they're not just going to come in, put their feet up, meet a hot dog at your event and say hello and grab a glass of wine and say, here's my money, right? I mean, that's not the way it works. Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. Generally, we do these events a few times a year, just an open house opportunity for people to meet us. But 90% of the people we work with come to us from a referral from a current, very happy client who tells somebody, you got to work with this guy, this firm, this gal that we have working in there. And people come in and they get comfortable with us. They ask a lot of questions, as well they should, and kick the tires. And then through a series of meetings, we go through everything that's going on in your financial life. We come to know everything that's happening for you, and then make recommendations about your world and help you implement, as I said, to chase down that American dream. It doesn't matter if you've got $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million or more. We're there to help people discover what it is that's important about their money, not just having it, but what's it for? Is it so you can go to a Super Bowl? Is it so you can own the team? What is it that's important to you? What are you trying to accomplish, and how do we help you get there?
Leonard Raskin's been my pal. That's what he does at RaskinGlobal.com. We get together and, sometimes we get a Pop-Tart and talk about life and about sports or about the Ravens. And, boy, baseball has sort of opened a conversation that anybody – and my last name's Aparicio, obviously, not Jeter or Walker this week, or even Schilling this week, who I've come in close personal contact with throughout most of my life, quite frankly. The baseball thing and the cheating thing, I think there's something for any of us. And I know, you've been an Orioles supporter and a local fan forever. And, you go back to the Cal Ripken days and the days where they canceled World Series, and we've had strikes, and we've had steroid users, and we've had steroid users run places and get back in the game and take the scarlet letter off. I don't know where the scarlet letter's off if you're wearing a buzzer and you're into systemic cheating to win a championship, and how pissed off the other 29 teams are, and every pitcher that ever got burned by you cheating. I don't know where the ethics and the ethos and the code are there. I do know in your industry, guys like Bernie Madoff go away and they never come back, right? That when you're a cheater, you're a liar, you're a crook in any line of work. There's a penalty to be paid, whether it's going to jail, giving money back, being a pariah. I always say about these baseball guys, Leonard, and they all had a lot of money. Rafael Palmeiro never had to give the money back. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, they all live in gated communities. They all have their money. They don't have their integrity within the framework of the game, and they're not going to get their little plaque up in Cooperstown, although, maybe someday they will. I mean, Pete Rose is still hanging on, right? But baseball, right? Like, you and I are of a similar age and a similar era where baseball, when we were kids, was this hallowed, esteemed thing, right? And, as I look at it now, where these crooked Hall of Fame votes are followed by crooked World Series, followed by changing the rules and corked bats and Jackie Robinson, it makes me want to barf, quite frankly, baseball.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a game that was revered. It's players that were revered. Look, I remember as a kid growing up, and I can remember a day where there was a line, 50, 200 kids at a Crown gas station to see Brooks Robinson and get a signed autograph.
Of course.
It was the greatest day of a 10-year-old, 5-year-old's life. That was what it was all about.
I did the same thing, by the way, at the Brooks Robinson store at Hochul Cone on the second floor because you had the Brooks Robinson Sporting Goods store at East Point Mall, where I purchased, and I found it recently, Third Base Is My Home. I found a signed copy. And, Brooks was right-handed but signed all his autographs left-handed.
Yeah, I still have what's his name? Neiman, the artist.
Leroy Neiman. He did the picture of Brooks signing the ball for the kid, right?
Brooks Robinson in a blue tube, signed, from God knows 1970.
I should put that on the wall back here. The Brooks Robinson Neiman should earn a place on my wall. Yes, you're right.
There you go. I still got one in the tube. I've got one on the wall. I've got one in the tube.
Somebody beep the horn at Robbie's first base at York and Ridgely. Pick me one up, all right? There you go.
There you go. And this whole thing with the Astros, boy, I don't know what the heck. I mean, they were wearing buzzers and they were flipping light switches and it's crazy.
Banging trash cans. Don't forget the trash cans, yes.
Right. They won the World Series. Then you got Cora the next year going to Boston, apparently doing the same thing. They win the series. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know what you do with the World Series title, but I don't know how the heck this commissioner of baseball doesn't strip them of their World Series title. That's the first thing that has to happen. And then to have seen so far, as you said, owners have taken a hit. General managers took a hit. Managers took a hit, but I haven't seen a player take a hit yet. And as you indicated, maybe they won't go to Cooperstown, but boy, there should be some repercussions. I think what we're going to see this year is a few pitchers ding a few guys in the head. That might set it straight at least a little bit.
Well, I mean, and then that's going to open up its own thing, right? Down at spring training, it's going to start. I mean, Altuve's a cheater wearing a wire. Fans are going to just, whatever A-Rod and Sammy Sosa and McGuire and all those guys, thought they had to deal with. The whole thing makes me want to take a bath and not support it, to be honest with you, right? And for me to say we're not going to support baseball here, like, they're already not supporting baseball here. We're already 2 years out on having the franchise go to the open market. I don't know who wants franchises anymore. Nashville, Portland, Montreal, Tampa's trying to keep their franchise. Oakland's trying to figure out their franchise. We're trying to figure out who's going to support the franchise. And, I've been very mouthy about the mayor's race. I'm going to continue to be that because I do think it all goes hand in hand as to what the future of Baltimore is going to look like in 2025 and 35. And I don't think it's going to look like it did in 1992 when you came downtown and you and me got together to see Sutcliffe, toss one against the Indians when Camden Yards opened. That doesn't mean anything to anybody who's under the age of 35 as far as what Boog Powell and Brooks Robinson represent to people like you and me. Baseball in this community is teetering, and we've seen a World Series down the street, and now we're going to bring in the Houston Astros Brain Trust to run this operation when they are going to become the Black Sox. I mean, I'm wondering how all of this shakes out, but it probably shakes out to 100 losses in the near short term. You can't buy a ticket now, Leonard, okay? Marty Conway made me aware of this. Their tickets aren't on sale. The Orioles do not sell their tickets in January. Now, go figure, right? Right. I don't know what the future is, but I don't like where it's heading, and I don't like what this family has done to the team. But that's another story aside from what's happening at a tectonic plate shifting of the sport where everybody's got a camera everywhere and there are no policemen to police these egregious breaches of integrity for the game, especially when they're trying to welcome gambling into this.
Yeah, and the consensus around towns in the league is they weren't the only ones. This has been going on for a while, and it's been happening in a lot of places. Surely it's been a little more primitive than it is this exposure of the Astros, but what did I see? Jack McDowell said that Tony La Russa was doing this back in the day with the White Sox. So
Greg Olson confirmed that this week on WNST. You can find that in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault. And, Olson said we knew which guys had corked bats. And if they ever hit one off of us, we were going to go check their bat, So
you got to wonder, is it endemic of the entire sport right now? Is that what's going on? And with this chase to get the TV dollar and this chase for the big money endorsements and the like, is that what this game has come to? And I guess if you look at it and say the integrity of the sport is not what matters, but the entertainment value to the public that wants to watch it, you got to say it's a damn shame, but that's what this has come to. It's maybe, and this might be an affront to some people, but it's the WWE. All we've got is entertainment value. We're not looking at real sport. We're looking at entertainers out there commanding a buck in the audience.
I just wrote down, and I showed on my paper that I had just wrote down WWF kayfabe and the code, because that's what the amazing part of this is. Like in your firm, if you decided to cheat for all of your people, and you would never do that, but if you did, I don't think you'd have everybody, at Raskin Global in on it and then have them go work for competitor X or competitor Y, as people do. They leave companies and they take those state secrets across the street to your competitor, and the whistle gets blown in whatever industry you're in, right? Like the fact that this many people were in on a systemic cheat in an industry where if you stay with a team for 3 years, you've been there a long time. Especially at the bottom of the roster, where guys go to the minor leagues and get dealt for a case of baseballs and some Delaware Valley mud, I should say, not Mississippi mud. That happens in the sport. That the fact that Fires went somewhere else and blew a whistle. There were 50, 60, 70 people in on this. And then Elias and Meidel are going to say they had no idea that this was happening. Man, I'm always going to turn a stink eye at that. I really am.
Scary. I don't know what happens here if the rebuilders have to be rebuilt. We're already a couple years behind the curve. We're trying to do the rebuild, and now heaven forbid, we find out that the guys that we brought in to do the rebuild are on the trash can lid. They're out there. They knew and didn't do anything about it, or they didn't know, or they knew and they bring it here or attempted to. That would be dreadful. Absolutely dreadful.
Well, things are bad enough, and they're about to negotiate with the state of Maryland, and I'm assuming this is going to be Larry Hogan's people, as well as whomever the next mayor of Baltimore is going to be at this point. I hope it's not a criminal. Or future criminal or current or criminal of any kind, because we need better than that in the city. But the
Absolutely.
Orioles were such a foundational, fundamental part of what a summer night in Baltimore was envisioned to be by Governor Schaefer, then Mayor Schaefer, for the 90s and into this century. And what the promise was and what it's delivered as a product, it should be something that people like me, who've been thrown out for 15 years by this evil man, we should say something about it. And on top of that, the fact that it could be used against us in a negotiation to say, what are they going to ask for? What are the Baltimore Orioles going to ask Leonard and Nestor and every taxpayer and the citizens of Baltimore and the residents of the state of Maryland? What are they going to want for Camden Yards that Nashville is going to be willing to give them? Because that's the game we're about to play here. And if anybody doesn't think that's the game we're about to play, I can't even speak with you, because you're naive to know what this game is as we open stadiums in L.A. and in Las Vegas. And just because John Angelos, who's never told the truth as far as I can tell, his family's never been honest with anyone, which is why they ban people like me, which is why I have to go to civic events and pepper the ownership with a question about the future of the franchise, because no one's front-facing. No one's front-facing from the Astros side of this with the Orioles right now about what's going on to say I wasn't involved. I mean, Leonard, I've said this to a lot of people. If I'm your number 2 at Raskin Global and something happens to you, or you're my number 2 at WNST, Peter DeLutis, my dear friend, if something really horrible broke in the news about me that there was receipts and evidence about, if you're number 2 and you don't know about it, the first thing you do, if you're Joe Paterno, you stand up and say, I knew nothing about this. I had no knowledge of this at all. You don't run and make the media come chase you down. You go find the lights and say, I had nothing to do with this. If I had nothing to do with it, I would be screaming I had nothing to do with it, especially when it's a Black Sox scandal. So I do worry about the Orioles, but I really worry about what all of this does. If they have to rebuild this thing, the rebuild, as you brought up 5 minutes ago, I do worry about the future. I'm always worried about the future of the franchise here because the franchise can't stand on its own right now against the Washington Nationals. Not on the field, not off the field, not in sales, not in the community, not with Masson, not in any way. And I don't know how badly Major League Baseball wants to stay in a town with 350 murders a year. I don't know if they have another option. I know how greedy the NFL guys have been about this, and there's a lot of money at stake.
Look, they're not building a stadium in Las Vegas for nothing. We now have, what is it, the Los Angeles, Oakland Raiders. And who knows if you could see a move, but yeah, as you said, the NFL is moving for a song. We got the San Diego, L.A. Chargers. We'll soon see what happens with the Orioles, and I guess at this moment the question is, what could they ask? What could they get when the performance on the field and the performance in the community just hasn't been there?
Well, I'm sure they want the parking lot, right? They wanted the hotel at one point. Angelos wanted, they want land that St. Louis has, that Wrigley Field has, that other teams are getting. They want the Fenway experience. They want to, they want to annex Pickles Pub. You know what I mean? Like that's literally they want that money. That money's not going to them. They want that money because the Cubs have figured out a way to own the whole neighborhood, literally.
Exactly. The rooftop.
Atlanta. Have you been to the Atlanta thing? Have you seen what they've done down there?
I have not been to the new place.
Well, the county and the city got into the fight, Leonard, right? Like, the mayor of Atlanta found out that the team was leaving when Johnny O held the press conference. Like, literally, right? Like that. Johnny O and I have talked about this at Baltimore Positive as well. That's the way that deal went down in Cobb County, that they were taking an Owings Mills, literally. They took the land that used to be Owings Mills Mall in Atlanta and said to the Braves, you get it all, you develop it all, you put in a Buffalo Wild Wings here, you put in a restaurant, you put in housing, you put in a store, you put in Raskin Global to come onto the second floor because they want to be in the Braves neighborhood because Leonard loves going to the games 40 times, and when work's over, he can just walk down the street, get a beer, and go to the game before he gets in his car and drives back to Marietta after the game, right? So they moved the Braves out there. That's the deal the Braves have, and that's the deal that, quite frankly, the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland Athletics and the Kansas City Royals and the Baltimore Orioles, they have to compete with that deal now, right? So this is the same thing where Jerry builds Dallas, and now Kroenke has to pick up the Rams from St. Louis and move them back to L.A. and build something bigger and better. And, London's calling for the NFL. But in baseball, I'm wondering who wants these franchises. But I'm also wondering, when are the Orioles going to get healthy? You know what I mean? When are they going to be a contributing part of what we talk about here the day after the Ravens get eliminated? And that's really the shame of it all for us, is that, and for me being in the industry and you loving baseball and all of us loving sports, is that's been kind of taken away, and there is no front facing for the Orioles. I mean, it's January, it's their time of the year now. The Ravens are eliminated. The next move is theirs, and hiding, I don't get it. It feels like they're trying to leave Baltimore to me. Otherwise, they'd be out selling their product right now.
Well, we didn't have Fan Fest this year, right? It went away.
How is that possible? That you stop marketing your team when it's at the lowest ebb and the Nationals just won a World Series?
Yeah. This is the time you got to invite people to the stadium. You got to be doing tours. You got to say, let's show you the warehouse. Let's put some seats on sale. Let's start our season ticket push. Let's get this community talking orange. Let's forget purple for right now. Let's get back to orange. It's our 2 weeks, pitchers, catchers, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Who's going?
Not I at this point, sadly, yes.
I think I'd have Rutschman. That's his name, right?
Adley Rutschman. They're going to invite him to Sarasota to try to sell some tickets, I think. Yes.
Yeah, I'd have him on the news every night. He'd be on the sports news local with every.
Well, I've not met the kid, so I don't. You know what I mean? Like they don't want him on my show.
I'm saying he should be on every sports network, TV, radio. He should be the front page of the Sun paper. What's going on there? Why isn't everybody not reaching out to him, but why isn't the team reaching out public relations wise and having this kid all over Baltimore saying, this is the time. This is the new face. Who's the face of the team this year? It's not Chris Davis, I don't think, anymore.
I guess it's Trey Mancini. I guess it's Means, right? I mean, I think John Means could walk through Timonium and not get recognized. I think he could walk through the mall. I literally believe that. I believe absolutely. The same thing for Trey Mancini to a large degree.
Absolutely. There's the other one. He's the next player. Why isn't he everywhere? I mean, Rutschman, he's a kid, so he's got to get a start. They've got to put him out there. But Mancini should be everywhere. He should own this town and the Orioles' name.
Well, Leonard, it's always good checking in with you, man. And I'm sorry we're not getting together in Miami next week. I'm sorry we're not drinking purple beer with purple mustaches and purple hairdos and purple garb. And it's a memory we won't have. But listen, Luke told me right after as we walked down the hallway leaving the locker room late on that Saturday night, he said, you know what, man? Maybe it's just meant to be the 20th anniversary in Tampa and the ghost of Trent Dilfer and my dear friend Brian Billick, who I've added to the wall behind me now with the trophy. Maybe it's meant to be in Tampa. I brought Art Modell back out to the front as well as my 1993 clubhouse pass from the Orioles Mike Messina-Cito Gaston game. But I brought Art out thinking, like, if somehow we get to Tampa next year, I'm going to get up with Eddie Mulatalo because I love Hawaii and the Polynesian, and I'm going to bring the Kukua nuts back. And we're going to see if we can bring the Kukua nuts into the locker room in Tampa next year. That's my dream. I have a dream. That's my dream.
Hey, Mahomes' third year in the Super Bowl.
We'll see how it goes next week.
Youngest starting quarterback, only to be breached by Lamar Jackson 2021.
From your lips to our creator's ears. He is Leonard Raskin Global. You can find him at RaskinGlobal.com. He manages money and talks sports with me and occasionally has a Pop-Tart or a pop, maybe in one case. Hey, I look forward to seeing you on the other side of Miami. Your event's the 10th of February. Anybody wants to get to know Leonard, go to RaskinGlobal.com. He's very easy to find there. I'll hook you up with him as well as on LinkedIn and everywhere that good financial sound advice is offered. Leonard, always a pleasure, man. It's baseball season. Remember that.
Indeed.
There he goes, Leonard Raskin from Raskin Global, still licking his purple wounds. We're talking baseball and Oriole baseball. Hey, you can throw me an email anytime, nasty@WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. I still do tons of feedback there. There were thousands of you hitting me about a Miami party. That would have happened next Saturday night. We'll wait one more year for the Whiskey Joe's reunion. How about that? We're on it. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore sports.